Hey everyone. For today's topic, I wanted to discuss how reciprocation is seemingly becoming rarer and rarer nowadays. And this makes sense when you analyze it, right? Because with online dating and social media, people feel like they have an abundance of options to choose from. But the problem many people fail to understand is that it's only an abundance of average people. So sure, you have an abundance of people to, get into relationships with, but most of them are not going to be great partners. But many people buy into that mentality and they're always thinking they can find someone better right around the corner. So with that, people aren't as inclined to reciprocate nowadays. They're not as inclined to get invested and commit to someone because why should they, right? If there's always going to be a better option around the corner, or so they think, why would they invest? It would be kind of like a bad decision, opportunity cost wise. So yeah, this is a really kind of interesting thing that's happening nowadays, and especially for people who primarily use online dating to meet others. This does happen in person to some extent, although probably less so there because, well, when you're in person, you have like your energy going for you, your vibe, that sort of thing, your how do I put it, your basically the way you carry yourself, like your posture and everything, your tone of voice, all of those things can help you get someone interested in you. And for people who really know what they're doing, who have done this a lot, like you won't really struggle all that much to get someone to reciprocate, at least hopefully for like the first date. Maybe after that, then yeah, things could fall off, or maybe you find out you aren't super interested in that person. Maybe they think that of you. Never know. But basically my whole point is, even in person, I imagine overall in general, people reciprocate less nowadays. I've seen the evidence of this everywhere online. I've experienced a lot of it myself, a lot of my friends and people I know, coworkers as well. Everybody talks about the fact that like dating is more difficult nowadays, because it is. And a lot of it is because of all these, well, there are also cultural things that have made this the case, but online dating and social media are probably the two biggest culprits overall, just because they've made people start having that mentality of an abundance of options. I mean, I've even heard that like attractive women who live in the middle of nowhere, like in small towns in the US, if they have an Instagram and she's attractive enough, she can get interest from like really rich men, or sometimes even I've heard celebrities who live like in other states. So that's kind of crazy, the amount of options good looking people have nowadays. Their dating pool is like a huge radius. It's not just where they live anymore. So that will trip people up. That will make them be less inclined to reciprocate. You basically will have to be like one of the best options out there in their mind for them to want to commit to you, to invest in you, to reciprocate. And yeah, it's just really interesting. I wanted to talk about this because it's kind of fascinating how things have changed over time, and especially how when you think about it, reciprocation used to be like the bare minimum, right? Like, or at least it's the bare minimum for starting a relationship. Usually, I guess you could wager there's an even lower bare minimum of like, as long as somebody is benefiting a lot from the relationship, they'll be inclined to choose it. Like when a really attractive woman chooses some rich guy, even though she doesn't love him or care about him, she's not going to necessarily reciprocate. She's just going to do what she knows will help her keep him in her life so she can spend his money, something like that. It's almost like a parasitic relationship when you really think about it. But anyway, that's a topic for another video. But yeah, reciprocation used to be kind of like the bare minimum. It was expected, kind of, right? Like even nowadays it still is pretty much a bare minimum. It's just rare for whatever reason. And yeah, I really do believe this is going to create a lot of issues. I mean, we're already starting to see them now. Like loneliness is an epidemic. Like that's crazy. I mean, it's always been something that humanity has struggled with for like our entirety, but it definitely doesn't seem like it's ever been as bad as it is now. Like people just feel so incredibly lonely. Like you read the stories of, it's usually unfortunately young men, which really sucks because society does not support them. It doesn't have a lot of like just things that like help services and stuff like that for young men. Society almost like antagonizes young men or thinks they're bad or whatever. It like basically craps on them and makes them feel even lonelier for it. So yeah, it's a problem, and not many people are speaking about it, and it's only going to get worse over time. So yeah, this whole reciprocation thing is going to create a lot of problems, and loneliness will probably be even worse in the future. So yeah, I mean, I just wanted to discuss this because it's an interesting subject, and I imagine a lot of you have felt the things that I've discussed in this video. You probably experienced them, so it's something that many of us have experienced, and kind of, yeah, it's a very much modern problem, and modern dating is a weird thing overall. It's interesting. There's so much psychological stuff going on that, like, my God, psychologists will have things to study for years and years going into the future, provided they're not so politically correct that they won't touch certain subjects that aren't exactly PC. Yeah, so yeah, it's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. If I could give one piece of advice in this video to not make it be like somewhat, I mean, it's not really positive, right? Like, oh well. But if I could add one piece of advice to make it a slightly more positive thing at the end here, it would be just make sure you continue to work on yourself, because that will help you spot good partners when they arise, so you're not buying into that whole unlimited partners BS mentality, because it's just simply not true, unless you're into average people, but they don't make for great romantic partners. So yeah, definitely keep working on yourself, and make sure that when you meet someone great, do not buy into that ridiculous mentality of thinking you can find someone better. Because maybe you could, maybe, but you have to think of all the different factors at play here. Because even if you can find someone better, like, what are the odds of it happening? What are the odds of you actually running into someone better than an already good partner? And then beyond that, not even just finding them is a problem, but beyond finding them, another problem is they need to like you back too. Like, what if they don't? What if you find someone better than your currently already great partner, but this better partner doesn't like you back? Like, yeah, that's another thing not many people realize. It's like everybody has these inflated egos. They always think they can pull anyone who's better than their current partner. That's just not true. Like, you will hit a point where if your level of personal growth is not high enough, you won't be able to pull someone better than an already good partner. So yeah, just food for thought, because not many people think of these things. But just make sure, if you do one thing in life, it's to continue working on yourself. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have for you. I hope that you found this video intriguing. I would really love to hear you guys' thoughts on this, so definitely leave comments down below, share your own experience, let me know what you think of this, and yeah, I mean, that's about all I have for you. I'll see you guys in the next video. Arrivederci!